single ice drop fell, the slow wake of Icewind Dale thawing before the grace of dawn. In early years, before the banners of the southern realms fluttered their warnings, before the frost winds whispered his name through trembling pines of Lonelywood, Jarl Storvald had already laid claim to a legend and to his birthright. He crossed the sea of moving ice to Svardborg upon Kyrgvind. The hollowed bones of an ancestral frost giant fortress lay buried beneath centuries of snowfall. A remote village where in ages past, frost giants came to hunt whales and giant walruses, and a long-forgotten giant legend. Many had forgotten it. Storvald had not. He found it broken, wind-scoured, and weeping through the glaciers. He found more still, a nesting ground hidden within the berg's icy marrow, eggs of white dragons, still warm, still whole. And so, he offered the parents a choice. The ancient white dragons, mighty, bitter, vengeful, rose to combat him. A fight never to be. With the eggs as leverage and Thrym's name upon his lips, Storvald enslaved the dragons. This ice-blooded promise, subjugation in payment for the lives of the eggs. The pair of white dragons accepted, becoming his wings, his fangs, his heralds. And from their backs, the sky around the sea of moving ice became their domain. Within moons, Storvald summoned the buried fleet, longships as vast, as long as entire villages, ancient and frost-hardened, freed from glacial tombs with runes of cracking and chants of awakening. Lodges were rebuilt, docks were reforged, barbarians gathered in awe. His strength was legend, his will absolute. Legends from scribes state, he shattered a Remmerhaz with a single hammer blow, the heat still steaming from his beard. He caught a storm giant's thrown spear and used it to split a glacier in two. He dragged 3 wyverns from the sky by their tails and offered them as meals to his warband. Storvald's ships descended on the Sword Coast, tasked with raids and with conquest, all in the name of Annam, the All-Father, the Ordning forever in their minds, the climbing of giant ranking paramount to their purpose. Merchant vessels vanished in the fog. Ports froze solid mid-trade. From Luskan to Fireshire, the only warning, a hush in the wind, and then the white dragons screaming from above, and frost giants thundering down upon the ice. He took wood from the bones of cities, masts from manors, gold from shattered lighthouses. For Storvald remembered a tale from his youth, given to him in the Jarlmut. The site comprised 7 giant-sized stone thrones, arranged in a circle facing one another. These 7 spoke of a tale known as the ice that never melts, focused on a golden ring sheathed in eternal frost, said to freeze oceans and grant immortality. The ring, the fable said, would bring about the age of everlasting ice. Others called it the Ring of Winter. And now, guided by enchanted runes, empowered with a single drop of blood stolen from the adventurer Artus Simba, Storvald hunts it. Each raid draws him closer. The winds themselves seem to whisper of its coming, a dominion where time freezes. And at its centre, the Jarl who would become a god of snow and a symbol to Thrym, that the frost never relents. In an age when the world was young and the mountains still remembered their birth, empires of giants cast shadows long enough to swallow nations. Their footfalls cracked continents, and their crowns rivaled clouds. Dreamers, dragon slayers, crafters of wonders, and kings who ruled with thunder in their veins. But even the mightiest citadel, the greatest empires succumbed to time. The great empires crumbled. Their statues bow their heads in silent ruin. The plinths of their glory stand forgotten in desolate corners of the world, sentinel stones overlooking nothing but wind. Where once they ruled the breadth of the world, now the giants are scattered, dwelling in steadholts carved from cliffside and glacier, in clans that remember more song than state. Yet though their kingdoms fell, their traditions did not. Giants carry their past in their bones. Older than most gods, the giants strode the earth while dragons still cracked their shells. In the early dawn of the world, giant and dragon clashed in wars that scarred the heavens. None remember the spark that lit that ancient enmity, but its embers still smoulder. Wherever the two meet, on peak or plain, there is no peace, only instinct, only fury. The great races of giants, storm, cloud, fire, frost, stone, hill, are divided by nature, but united by something older than empire, the Ordning. The Ordning is the shape of the world as Annam the All-Father intended, a divine architecture of purpose woven into the soul of every giant born. It is caste and commandment, merit and myth. By it, every giant knows its place among its kind. No two giants are equals. Rank is earned. And each race of giants defines worth in its own way. Storm giants, crowned in lightning, sit at the peak of the Ordning. Beneath them follow the cloud giants in their floating courts, the warlike fire giants, the frost giants of thunderous raid, the deep-buried stone giants, and the brutish hill giants. Beyond them dwell the outcasts, Ettins, ogres, and others whose names are spoken only in pity or curse. To rise within one's race is a holy endeavour. A fire giant may ascend through cunning and forgecraft, a hill giant through ferocity and feast. But even the mightiest hill chief bows before the lowest born storm noble. There is no ascension between castes, only excellence within them. To refuse aid to a kin race is dishonour. To betray one is sacrilege. Among these castes walk the frost giants, children of Thrym, the Winter King, he who howls in the avalanche and rules from a throne of frozen wrath. To them, survival is sacred. Might is the marrow of all things, and pain is proof of their unrelenting power. The Frostborn sing their hymns in the echoes of falling glaciers, in the scream of wind over ice. Their sagas are written in scars and remembered in the shattered bones of their prey. They seize glory with axe and roar and storm. And among them, one name is now etched deeper into the rhyme than any other. Storvald, Jarl of Svardborg, Scourge of the Sword Coast, Seeker of the ice that never melts. He rules by the blizzard he commands and the white dragons who kneel before his will. For in his heart burns the oldest hunger, a place atop the Ordning, beside Thrym himself. Ah, welcome, dear reader or listener, as fate would have it. Tonight's tale comes from the frostbitten heights of the spine of the world, where civility is as rare as a warm breeze. Allow me to introduce you to one Harshnag, frost giant of stature, to be sure, but greater still in character. Excerpt from Volo's Guide to Giants, Chapter 4, The Frostfell Colossi and the Manners of Harshnag. By Volothamp Geddarm, esteemed author, scholar, and raconteur of the realms. With commentary and lamentations by Elminster Almar. Frost giants, dear reader, I once stood before a glacial war host that could have frozen the laughter from a satyr's lips. Yet among these wintry warlords, I found a most unexpected paragon of civility, the mighty, harsh Nag. Volo, confidently sipping warm mulled wine beside a roaring fire, wearing a fur-lined robe he swears was once gifted to him by a grateful frost giant matron. Note, citation dubious. One cannot trust half of what Volo says, and I say that with generous charity. Still, Harshnag does exist, and much of this tale, remarkably, aligns with truth. Scribes preserve us. From E. Ah yes, Harshnag, a name that echoes like cracking ice across the high passes of the spine of the world, simply because he once crushed a white dragon's skull to retrieve a stolen horn of ale, without spilling a drop. Born into a clan of traditionalist frost giants, who believe strength should be shown through bellowing, brawling, and a general disdain for the small folk, Harshnag emerged as an aberration among his kind. He displayed courtesy. He showed restraint. He once bowed to a dwarven priest after accidentally stepping on his temple. Confirmed, though it was more of a sheepish incline of the upper torso, accompanied by the phrase, "Oops, sorry." Elminster. Banished for his galling politeness and rumoured fondness for dwarven poetry, Harshnag journeyed south. There, in the midst of an attempted intervention by the Grey Hands, those gallant guardians of Waterdeep, Harshnag did not raise his axe, but rather raised his hand in greeting. "Excuse me," he is reported to have said. "Could you point me toward the harbour? I've heard tales of walrus on a stick and would very much like to try one." So taken were the Grey Hands, particularly Ardwim, a ranger with a rather romantic notion of noble giants, that Harshnag was invited to join their elite ranks. From there, he took residence in a cave upon Mount Sar, converting it into a personal hall that by all reports includes a massive harp and an even larger bookshelf. When trouble stirred in the realms, be it rampaging hill giants, rampaging stone giants, or rampaging cloud giants — giants do tend to rampage, don't they? Harshnag answered the call. Summoned by a sending spell from a comrade named Maliantor, he would descend the peaks, bearing Gert's great axe, a relic older than many mountains. Pyrgiron did indeed bestow the axe, which should tell you much about Harshnag's character. The Lord of Waterdeep was not given to theatrics. Elminster. Now, reader, some say Harshnag may have been an ice shaper, a rare breed of frost giant with command over the primeval magics of frost, wind, and rune. These arcane warriors can conjure spears of ice from the very air, command storms, and speak runes that can freeze blood in the heart, though Harshnag never boasted such powers. And, trust me, I asked. He modestly dodged the question. I did once observe him conjure a dome of rime to shield a burning cottage from a fire giant's assault. That sounds suspiciously like one of Volo's exaggerations, but I'll allow it this time. Whatever the truth, Harshnag remains a figure of legend, one who defied the Ordning through honour, discipline, and kindness. And as the Ordning crumbled in the wake of Annam's silence, Harshnag has begun to construct his legend, to defend those who had no giant of their own to protect them. I, Volotham Gedarm, consider him a friend. And in all my travels, be it beneath the sands of Kalimshan or amidst the spires of Evereska, I have met few beings taller in stature or nobler in heart. For once, he ends a chapter with grace. From E, Volo lounges near the hearth, flipping open his newest tome with a flamboyant snap of the wrist. He glances over the pages, then raises one eyebrow at Elminster, who is already massaging his temples. Ah, my dear Elminster, brace yourself, for here lies the Frost chapter, and I dare say it may be my chilliest triumph yet. Without waiting for a response, he plunges into the reading, voice rising like a herald's over a frozen battlefield. Chapter 5. The Avalanche Kings and the Gospel of Ice. From Volo's Guide to Giants. Wrought from glacier and gale, frost giants, these titans tower near 20 feet, clad in storm-torn furs and crowned in hoarfrost. Their skin gleams like granite veined with ice, hair as pale as northern dawn, beards clattering with icicles and the roar of winter gales ever in their breath. Their eyes burn cold, frozen cerulean, aglow with the promise of ruin. Their raiment forged in hardship, armour stitched from dragonhide and whalebone, adorned with the tusks of mammoths and the steel of conquered foes. He wrote that first line in 3 different fonts. 3. On parchment, Elminster. To be Frostborn is to earn each breath against the wind. Focusing on raw might, they do not pen law, never will they bow. They raid, because raiding is their nature. It is the echo of Thrym's first roar. It is how the strong carve their portion from an unkind world. To take is to remember that nothing is ever given. Their homes are hidden halls and storm-sheltered vaults, carved into the bones of the tallest peaks and buried beneath sheets of eternal snow. There, they line their walls with dragon skulls, shattered helms, and bones bound in frostweed. They honor tale and trial. Duels are sacred, for victory is prophecy. Loss has no shame, only a lesson. They trust in strength. They remember every insult. Frost giants, embodying the raw elemental force of unrelenting and inescapable cold. Surprisingly accurate so far. I'm sure he'll ruin it shortly. Elminster, avatars of winter. Their flesh is blue as glacial rime, their hair matted with frost, their breath a killing wind. They hunt the peaks and rifts where the sun forgets to rise, where even wolves dare not tread, while drinking deep from the marrow of battle and chanting to the stars. Glacial longships arrive, with sleet in their sails. Villages vanish beneath blizzards born of their passing. Ravens feast where they tread, and only the cold silence follows. They do not care for coins. The houses of the 10 towns generally remain untouched, unless cursed. But they prize gems the size of fists, talismans of bone, trophies that tell stories. They're treasures for remembrance. Among the frost giants, strength is scripture, with the giant's place in the Ordning, carved by labour and scars. The largest, the boldest, the bloodied, these are the high. Their bodies are their lineage, their trophies are their tales. Craft is beneath them, save for bone carving, leathercraft, the etching of runes into dragon fang. Their weapons are often made from the arms of lesser foes, shields repurposed, swords lashed to hafts, glaives born from ruin, the greatest bear fragments of frost dragons, their hilts carved from horn, their blades cold enough to crack steel. When clans meet, wrestling matches crack mountainsides, freeze lakes mid-thaw, fell trees like dominoes. Lonelywood has one tale of a frost giant who broke every tree within the forest, replanted them, just so he could knock them over once again. And in every tale they carve across the world's skin, Thrym listens. Thrym is their patron, yes, though his gaze is hardly so immediate. Still, they believe it, and that makes it true enough for them. Also Volo, that tale regarding Lonelywood. Please. Elminster, in the coldest reaches of the sea of moving ice, where the aurora whispers to frost-cloaked waves and glaciers drift like slumbering titans, there floats a fortress of giants, Svardborg. Once a village where the Frostborn gathered to hunt the great whales and tussed leviathans of the deep. Svardborg was a sacred place, even in the age of Ostoria. When that empire of empires fell and the blood of Annam's lineage scattered like snow on wind, Svardborg was abandoned, entombed beneath centuries of shifting ice. Yet the bones of its lodges endured, waiting in silence. It was Jarl Storvald who woke it from its slumber. Guided by the whispers of Thrym and the promise of the ice that never melts, he reclaimed the ancestral bastion and made it the crown of his raiding kingdom. There, beneath the circling winds and shifting bergs, he kindled the old rites of the frost giants and brought new purpose to ancient halls. Svardborg now floats amid hundreds of other icebergs, cloaked in mist and legend. 3 of its immense lodges remain encased in glacial tombs, while others have been freed from the ice by giant hands and dragonfire breath. Their timbers groan with age and battle, but Storvald has sent longships to plunder wood from the mainland, restoring the lodges beam by beam. These halls are perched on sheer cliffs of ice, rising 50 feet above black seawater. Only near the dry dock lodge does the ice descend gently, where a great pier of timber and whalebone juts out to receive the punts and barges of the frost giants. Beneath the surface, a cleft in the iceberg's heart opens into a vast, water-filled chamber, a natural port where the giants moor their great ships. Across this threshold stretches a gate of thick chain and woven ice steel, a net that humbles kraken and sea serpent alike. Within Svardborg, the great lodges Thrym with life and warlike purpose. Frost giant warriors sharpen blades of blackened iron. Winter wolves prowl the corridors, their eyes gleaming with eerie intelligence. The enslaved white dragons perch upon the ice-choked cliffs, ever watchful, their breath fogging the sky. And at the heart of it all, atop a throne carved from glacier and stormbone, sits Jarl Storvald, his gaze ever turned southward, toward the lands of men, toward the heat of the Ring of Winter. From Svardborg, the giants strike. Their raids come like tempests, swift, merciless, and unrelenting. They are the forging of prophecy, for this lair is their fortress and is the anvil upon which the age of everlasting ice shall be wrought. The wind howled like a beast chained to the ice, gnashing against the cliffs above Svardborg. It screeched through the teeth of the glaciers, whipping snow into dagger flakes that cut even giant flesh. Amid the blizzard, rising black against the pale fury of the storm, stood a hall of bones and iron. Inside, the air steamed with breath, sweat, and fury. Jarl Storvald stood at the centre, bare-chested despite the cold, runes glowing along his arms, in silent rhythm with the storm outside. He had not shivered since the last of his youth fled into the ice. He ran a hand down the haft of his great axe, Frostcleave, and turned to the War Council. They were a ring of monsters, frost giant champions, reavers, rune carvers, and seers who had outlived a dozen Thors. "Tonight," Storvald growled, voice low as a glacier's shift, "we end the search, carve our names into the legends and into the marrows of the Ordning." Grumther, his axe thane, cracked a tusk grin. "Is it the druid's forest, or that wizard fort with the glass tower?" Storvald's eyes narrowed. "Neither. They are distractions. Petty bark and fire. We strike the coast of Gundalen, break their port, split that connection that knots the weave around the ring." A hush fell like sleet. Even among giants, some places were watched. Thurgle, oldest of the rune-marked, rumbled, "Their mages will call storms against us. Their fleet sails with fire barrels. You would invite their full wrath." Storvald turned, slowly. He stepped toward Thurgle with a weight like falling stone, then stopped an axe length away. "Wrath?" he echoed, voice sharp and cracking like lake ice. "We are Wrath. We are Thrym's chosen." He raised one hand. A rune flared along his palm. Iskaldr, the deep freeze, the stillness of death. The torches sputtered. Grumther leaned forward. "And the ring?" Storvald nodded once. "The ring sleeps near Gundalen. Its presence warps the winds. The auroras dance wrong above it. I have felt its breath. It is close." He strode to the map, etched into the ice slate table. With his axe, he carved a single line across the northern coast of Gundalen. "This," he said, "is where the Age of Warmth draws its last breath." The giants stirred. Axes shifted in hands. Fists tightened. Even the shaman, once wary, bowed low and whispered a blessing of frost and finality. Storvald turned his eyes skyward as though peering through the wood and bone of his hall beyond the clouds and storm, to the glint of something ancient, something colder than even him. "Rouse the Kyrgvind," he commanded. "Sharpen the chains for prisoners. Freeze everything. Leave behind nothing." He paused, then looked to his warriors, each a mountain molded for war. Then, with a scream, "They will speak our names in the halls of Annam, the chosen who brought a never-ending age of ice."